Locks are literally growing. Like, this hairstyle is cute. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's me, Claudia, if you're new here, and if you're a returning subscriber, thank you for clicking on today's video. So upon popular request, you guys really enjoyed my crochet unpopular opinions video where I just basically ranking your crochet unpopular opinions. So upon popular request, I'm making a part 2 of that video. So don't forget to like, comment and subscribe this video, and if you do enjoy it, share it with your friends, share it with your crochet buddies. Let's get into the video. Okay, so like last time, I have literally made, well not made, I just kept the same ranking system from the last video. I will explain the ranking systems again, just so if you're new to the video you kind of understand what's going on. The first one is weight. Is this my unpopular opinion? Basically any unpopular opinions that you guys have commented that I personally agree with, like is literally something I would say. Second one is we think alike. I like that. We have the same kind of like opinions about the same kind of topics or whatever, and we just think alike, like we're literally twins. Third one is order in the courts. This one is just basically for opinions that I feel like are a bit unhinged, but then at the same time I could agree with it. Like I'm on the fence about it, but I don't necessarily fully agree with it. It's just kind of like a 50-50. I could agree, I could disagree kind of thing. The next one is I love that for you, but it's not for me. Basically, this is just saying that I love that you like or you have that opinion, but me personally, I don't agree with you, or I just wouldn't have that same opinion, but I love that for you. So you can have that opinion because, you know, it's your opinion. Then the last one is gel time. This is literally an unpopular opinion that I just find very unhinged, very controversial, out of pocket, and I disagree with it big time. Like I do not agree with it at all. So yeah, these are the ranking systems, and without further ado, let's get into the ranking process. Okay, so the first unpopular opinion is there are good and cheap strings that are not plastic. Why are you still using plastic fibers and when there are affordable options, and how on earth are you wearing those? I have acrylic sweater once and it was the most horrible clothes related thing that has happened to me. Okay, I'm gonna put this in I love that for you, just because one, I couldn't understand what was like being said, and two, I feel like saying that there are good and cheap strings, like yarn to use, that are not plastic is kind of subjective to your own opinion. Like not what you think is affordable or cheap is affordable and cheap to someone else. I could think acrylic yarn is affordable and cheap, but somebody else might think, oh, that's really expensive. Yeah, in that sense, I don't agree with what you're saying. And as well, like just because you don't like plastic fibers doesn't mean everybody else, you know, doesn't like it as well. Like there are some people who can only use plastic fibers because they might be allergic to other fibers, or they might not like the other fibers, or for example they might be vegan, so they might not be able to use like vegan friendly yarn. Like you can't necessarily judge people for using plastic fiber yarn because not everybody is in the same circumstance as yourself. Oh yeah, and in regards to acrylic yarn being itchy, I've never crocheted anything with acrylic yarn and found it itchy. If you find it itchy, maybe you just have sensitive skin, or you might be allergic to that material. But me personally, I've never crocheted any like acrylic clothing and found it itchy to wear. The yarn I've ever crocheted with that I found itchy was like actual wool. I found that very itchy, and I don't like the texture of it because it's itchy and it's not nice on my skin. But acrylic yarn, I'm not fussed. Then the next unpopular opinion is my unpopular opinion, which I think a lot of people will hate me for, is that you shouldn't call yourself a professional crocheter or even a good crocheter if you just use patterns. So much of the creativity and skills comes from making the patterns designed yourself. I would never shame someone for using a pattern, obviously, but you're missing out on like half the fun. And also slightly unrelated, but the people who comment 5,000 plus times on anything crocheted on TikTok or Pinterest, etc., saying pattern, where's the pattern, are so annoying. Like 90% of the time it's right there, or you're just not looking, or it's literally a granny square cardigan or something, like you can figure it out yourself. Okay, for this one I'm gonna put we think alike, and I like that simply because crochet really does depend on how good you are at, you know, making patterns or coming up with creations or patterns on your own. But in a way, somebody could be very good at reading patterns and make something completely amazing from that pattern, but then somebody else might use that same pattern and, you know, the outcome of that pattern doesn't, you know, work really well because one, they may have not understood the pattern, or they're just, you know, not as skilled or like perfected. Guys, basically what I was trying to say is somebody could be very good at crocheting, but they just might not understand patterns. That doesn't mean they aren't good at crocheting, they just don't understand a pattern, and not understanding a pattern doesn't make you less of a crocheter than someone who does understand patterns. I think it's all right for people to call themselves good crocheters, because crocheting is like the actual physical act of, you know, making something with the hooks and the yarn. But then professional crocheters, I think, are the people that come up with the patterns and make the designs themselves and think of like the measurements and the stitches and everything and combine everything together. If they're like, you know, their skills and stuff, then they're professionals. But it's all right if people call themselves good crocheters, because you could be someone who's a beginner and you could be a good crocheter because you can make a neat panel, you can make a neat, I don't know, like pair of socks or something, and it's neat. Because it's neat, that means you're good, like your skills are good enough for it to be neat. If it's not neat, then you're a bad crocheter because it's not neat and it doesn't look like what it's supposed to look like, if that makes sense. Actually no, I'll put that in order in the court just because of what I just said. I'm kind of on the fence with that opinion. Like, I agree with it, but then I don't agree with it. Just because someone reads a pattern and creates something doesn't mean they're not a good crocheter, because it takes skills to actually read a pattern, understand it, and then replicate what the pattern has said for you to make it. Like, I remember one time I was pattern testing for one of my mutuals on Instagram, and at first I couldn't understand the pattern at all. Like, literally I was struggling to understand what was being said and what the pattern wanted me to create. Like, I knew what it was I was creating, but like there was a section of the pattern that I just couldn't wrap my head around. I messaged the girl, let her know that I could understand it and everything, and she kind of explained it in a better way for me to understand. So after messaging her and she explained to me how to like do the pattern, I kind of understood what it so she explained to me properly what the pattern was asking me to do. I kind of understood what it was I needed to do, and then once I figured out what it was I needed to do, I was able to, you know, finish the crochet project and make whatever it was the pattern was asking me to make. It was about a clover, and I was actually pretty proud of how it came out, considering I couldn't understand the pattern. So yeah, I would consider myself a good crocheter in that sense, because I was able to, you know, work around not understanding the pattern and figure it out on my own. Okay guys, I'm so sorry for the lighting change. My light literally just died. It literally just died. Got it like 2 days ago. I haven't even used it and it died. So I'm gonna let it charge for a bit, and when it's fully charged or charged a bit more, I will use it again. But for now, we're gonna have to make do with this lighting. And in regards to the people in the comment section asking for pattern or where the pattern is, I 100% agree with you that it is very annoying. Like, it is really, really annoying, because I feel like some of these people feel entitled to have the pattern released or to have the pattern given to them, or, you know, told, have the pattern told to them, if that makes sense. I feel like it's all right to ask for a pattern for something, but just to comment pattern with question marks, or like, where's the pattern, or can I have the pattern, without using your manners, is actually very rude, because somebody has sat there and spent their time to crochet something and they're feeling very proud about it. They've posted it, you know, just to show everyone about it, and then you come in and then you comment pattern, or where's the pattern, or what pattern did you use. That's very rude. So just be mindful, guys, of how you're commenting on people's, you know, posts and stuff, on creators' posts. Like, be polite, use your manners, use please, thank you. Like, actually be respectful, because they don't have to give you the pattern if they don't want to. And if you're going to be commenting pattern or where's the pattern, what makes you think they're going to give you the pattern with that kind of attitude? Like, it's not on. It's not on. So make sure you're being respectful and you're being nice and polite and thoughtful to the person's comment section. So yeah. Next unpopular opinion is that there really is not that much acrylic yarn shaming anymore. It's starting to be the other way around. Not like in Red Heart, because it's itchy and squeaky, is not acrylic shaming. Most of these conversations start there, and that just blows my mind. Videos are endlessly being made about yarn shaming, but I rarely see any that are a response to actual yarn shaming. I constantly see comments shaming crocheters for using natural fibers when that crocheter never said a damn thing about acrylic. People comment all the time about not being able to afford the yarn and how it's unrealistic to be able to make a full sweater with yarn at that price. Most of the time, nobody lists the price of the yarn in their posts, and you have to go look it up yourself to find out. Usually the only people discussing how pricey it is are the ones mad about the price when they find out. This is shaming too. Someone can post a nice mohair sweater with no caption and you see multiple comments about how unaffordable the yarn is. Make it make sense. This is all coming from someone who likes a little bit of everything. Okay, I feel like with this unpopular opinion, I'm gonna put it in I don't know. I feel like I'm gonna put this one in order in the court, just because I'm kind of on the fence about the opinion. Like, I agree with it to an extent, but then at the same time, it's like I've personally seen people shaming other people for using acrylic yarn in comment sections, so I understand that it's real and it happens, and like it still happens. Like I say, just because you don't necessarily see it doesn't mean it doesn't happen anymore. Like, there are lots of crochet creators out there, and sometimes in comment sections it's kind of subtle. It's kind of like, oh, I can never use acrylic yarn, or like it's 2024 and you're still using acrylic yarn, like stuff like that. Like, it's still shaming people for using acrylic yarn. It's not necessarily crazily mean or anything, but it's still shaming people for using it. And as well, it's like I even had a comment in my comment section saying how can I be using plastic fibers, blah blah blah. It's like, not everybody wants to use natural fibers, not everybody can afford to use natural fibers, so it's like that's still acrylic shaming, because you're shaming me for using plastic fibers instead of using natural fibers that you use. And I just think it's not right. Okay, so the next unpopular opinion: no counting stitches, we die like men. Also, hobby cotton yarn is normally $2 to $4 US, and a lot of the time it's on sale for less. Buying in larger quantities gives you a discount. I'm gonna put this in gel time. Just because, what do you mean no counting stitches, we die like men? I'm sorry, I don't know about you, but if I don't count my stitches and I make a mistake, the whole thing is going in the bin. Because like, okay, maybe that's an exaggeration, it's not going to go in the bin, but it's like, how could you not count your stitches as you're crocheting? Especially if it's like a project that needs to be like symmetrical, like a top. Like if you're making this style of top and crochet this bit separately, like it needs to be symmetrical, and you need to count the stitches. Because if you don't count the stitches, you're gonna have one side that's like too big or one side that's too small. It's like, it's just not going to look good. And as well, like counting stitches, make sure you're doing the right thing and your crochet thing makes sense. For example, hats. If you're making a hat and you're not counting the stitches, good luck to you. Because I cannot make hats without counting my stitches. Like for the rounds, when you do the increases, you have to count the stitches, so you make sure you're putting the right amount of stitches in the right, like, you know, stitches. If you're making a hat and you're doing an increase, on the first row of increase you do 2 double crochets in the second row, and then in the third row you do 2 double crochets in the first stitch, and then 1 double crochet, and then 2 double crochet. And if you're not counting how many like stitches you're putting into each slot, you're gonna mess up and the increase is gonna look really weird. Like, I've never done it and not counted, so I don't fully know if it'll work, but all I'm saying is gel time. You deserve gel time. I'm not from the US, so I don't buy yarn from hobby, so I wouldn't know. But for my US viewers, if you're watching this, there's a tip for you, or like information for you. If you shop at hobby, you can get yarn that is usually $2 to $4, and if you buy a lot of it, you can get a discount. So keep that in mind, my US viewers. Okay, my opinion about hooks is completely opposite. I like small hooks, because when you use chunky yarn and big hooks, then the project looks a little bit messy, full of these little see-through holes. I hope you understand what I'm talking about. On the other side, smaller hook lets you crochet to look like almost a real fabric, and it's easier to make lace. I like lace. Recently I done 17 lace snowflakes with 1.5mm hook. I really enjoy the process. Okay, you know what, I agree with this unpopular opinion, because I started using smaller hooks just to experiment and see what you guys, you know, mean by it's better for the stitches and how neat it looks and stuff. Not that much of a small hook, but it's a 4.5 millimeter hook. I'm still learning to go lower, but I think for now my limit is 4.5, because the 2.5 or the 2 or the 1, I just ignore it. Like, it's scary. I just leave it alone. But I'm gonna put this opinion in we think alike. I like that because I've been using smaller hooks, so I kind of understand where you're coming from with the, it makes it look neater and it makes it have like less holes. When I started crocheting, I used like 6mm hooks. I didn't really use 7mm hooks for clothes, but I use like a 6mm hook. It's an average size, but it's still kind of big, and a lot of my projects did have holes in it, even though it was a consistent like holes or whatever. I was like, how can I make the holes like kind of disappear or look less holy or whatever? So then I started using 4mm hooks and 5mm hooks and 4.5mm hooks and 5.5mm hooks, and the difference is not crazily huge, but there is a difference. Like, the stitches look neater, it looks nicer, it looks like the stitches obviously look smaller, and it just looks better in my opinion. So I agree with you. And 17 snowflakes with 1.5mm hooks. I don't know how you did that, but you did that. Like, you actually ate with that. Okay, so then the next unpopular opinion is stop being lazy and search for the center pull. It's not that hard to find. It's going to make everything so much easier. To me, tension rings and yarn balls show a lack of commitment to learning and improving, though I do admit some of the balls are cute. I'm gonna put this in, I love that for you, but it's not for me. Just because I just feel like just because people aren't looking for the center pull doesn't mean they're lazy. Maybe they're not looking for the center pull because they've tried looking for it before and they get a yarn bath. Like, the amount of center pulls I have tried to find and pull out literally a wad of yarn in the middle of the yarn is literally, it's frustrating, it's annoying, and I've just stopped trying to find the center pull. Instead, what I do is, if I get a new yarn, I'll literally use my cake maker machine and just wind the yarn and turn it into a cake. So then when I want to get the center pull, I just literally pull it out. That doesn't mean I'm lazy, because it does take a lot of effort and energy to actually wind the cake winder to make it into a cake, and sometimes it doesn't always work because it can, like, it might lose the tension on the windy bit, or like the bit that sticks out and goes up could fall and like it ruins it. So I don't think people who don't look for the center pull are lazy. I just feel like they don't want to have to go through the stress of having to deal with a center pull bath. And in regards to the tension rings, I personally don't have a tension ring, but I feel like people who do have tension rings don't necessarily have it because they're lazy. I feel like they probably have it because it helps them better with the tension of the yarn when they're crocheting. And also, I don't know about you, but sometimes when I crochet I do get yarn burns, because, you know, like when you're trying to wind the yarn as you're going, it can burn your finger, and I don't like that. So maybe that's why they have it. Or they might not like the feeling of the yarn on their finger as they're going, so they get, you know, a tension ring to help with that. Not everyone that has crochet accessories are lazy, so let's not call people lazy for having things that make their lives easier, because if you crochet, you know how stressful it can be, and if you minimize the stress by getting things that are helpful to you, you're doing good, and that's all that matters. TLDR, I don't know what that means, but okay. Amiguri and granny squares are bad for beginners. Start with swatches, ADHD/OCT, etc. Never do granny square projects or blankets or scarves. Mine is that amiguri and granny squares are the wrong place to start. There's a lot of different techniques and it can get overwhelming. Instead, learning a slip knot, chaining, single crochet, double crochet, half double crochet, treble crochet, slip stitch and magic ring using swatches is a lot easier, and you're a lot more likely to stick to crochet. You also get a lot better feel for the yarn and hook you're using, and get used to gauge swatches that way. Okay guys, I can read. I promise you I can read. It's just, this is the first, okay, not the first time reading them, but reading and trying to process what is being said is difficult, especially because I'm recording. Like, usually it takes me a while to like process what I'm reading, so I can read. Blankets and scarves are terrible first products or ever for those with ADHD, OCD, since it's too repetitive to be stimulated enough. If you need a sense of completion as a beginner, go for something like a coaster or bookmark before trying stuff like amigurumi and granny squares. But I 100% agree with this unpopular opinion, so I'm gonna put this in. Is this my unpopular opinion? Because you literally hit the head on the hammer. You literally hit the head on the hammer. Why are you laughing?
It's hit the head of the nail.
Wait, is it? Okay, my sister's literally on the floor, but it's guys, listen, you literally hit the head on the, is it head on the nail?
Yes.
Okay, you literally hit the head on the you literally but basically I agree with you. Like, I really do agree with you. Like, when I first started learning how to crochet, I didn't start off with projects. I started with like the different stitches, like the slip knot, half double crochet, double crochet, all of them. But as a beginner, you should honestly be starting off with these kind of stitches. You don't want to start off with a project with like a granny square or amigurumi. I don't know why you would want to start off with those two specific projects, and it is very repetitive. Me personally, I don't really like amigurumi because of how repetitive it is, and I just don't know, like, I don't like it. I've tried it and I don't like it. Granny squares are okay, like I'm used to granny squares, but as a beginner you shouldn't start off with them. Start off with the basic stitches, and once you've got the basic stitches down, make swatches, like little panels with the basic stitches, like literally a rectangle this big with the, say, a half double crochet, the whole stitches half double crochet this size. If you want to make a stitch, if you want to make a panel with double crochet, make it this size, or even this size, like literally a square. If you want to make slip knots, not slip knot, if you want to make slip stitches, literally you can make a circle, slip stitches, just slip stitches. And yeah, like coasters are honestly the best beginner projects because you can literally just make the circle with the specific stitch you're making. So for me, when I first started, I did try to make hats as a beginner project, but I didn't really understand increases and stuff, so I just got really overwhelming and I kind of dropped it, and instead I decided to make coasters. And obviously coasters have increases as well, but it's just a lot easier and it's less, what's the words, it's less overwhelming. One unpopular opinion is that I hate when other crafters compare themselves to me or others. Yes, you can look at someone's skill and think it's impressive, but as an advanced crocheter and knitter, someone who has only been knitting garter stitch their whole time cannot compare themselves to someone who makes cable patterns. And if it's someone's way to ask for help to how to advance, just ask me that. Stop telling me I can never get like you. It's discounting the hard work I've put into my craft and your own capabilities. I 100% agree with you with this one, so I'm gonna put this in we think alike, and I like that because yeah, like I've seen a lot of people compare themselves to other crocheters in comment sections, be like, oh my gosh girl, like you're so good, I can never get as good as you, or like, oh teach me your ways, or like, you know, I'll never be as good as crocheting, or I can't crochet, or I try crocheting and I quit, like I wish I could be like you. Like I get that in a way you're trying to probably uplift somebody in a comment section by commenting like that, or trying to be positive, but at the same time you're disregarding your own capabilities and you're bringing yourself down to bring someone else up, and that's not okay. Like it's not right to compare yourself to other people, to compare other crocheters to you. You can say someone's good at crocheting without saying that you're bad at crocheting, or you can say someone's good at crocheting without saying a different crocheter is bad at crocheting, or someone else's work is better than someone else's work. Like you can just say, oh my gosh, you're really good at crocheting, and leave it at that. But yeah, just don't compare yourself to other people, or don't compare your work to other crocheters' work, and don't compare other crocheters to other crocheters, because it's just unnecessary and it's just not needed. So next unpopular crochet opinion is that I love scallop edging. It truly finishes a piece like a blanket. I'm gonna put this in, wait, is this my unpopular crochet opinion? Because I 100% agree. Like I love that finish, like scallop shell stitch finish, like on tops, blankets, whatever it is you're crocheting, I just love it. Recently I've been crocheting things and I literally just add in that scallop finish to it. For example, I recently made a crochet hook organizer, but this is my one. is literally this. It's honestly the cutest, and when you open it like this and like this, is like a board kind of, and it literally has my stitch markers, my hooks, my darning needles, and some bits and pieces like a ruler and this ribbon and some other stuff in there. But basically the scallop finish or the scallop edges is literally just this, like the shelf stitches. It's so cute and I love it so much. So yeah, 100% agree. Okay, so the next unpopular opinion is that not everyone should sell their crochet work starting off. I've been in so many online groups where people start crocheting just because they want to sell it, which is fine, but then they ask for pricing advice, and then when I see the picture of the item, all I can say is that they need more practice before wanting to sell. I'm talking gaps in stitches, things sewn on lopsided, and threads hanging out. Just please build up on your skill sets before wanting to sell. I 100% agree with this. I'm gonna put this in we think alike, and I like that. We do want to start crocheting to sell. Obviously it makes sense to perfect your skills, it makes sense to perfect your craft before you want to sell, because you're selling to real people. Like, you're not just selling to your family and friends who wouldn't necessarily mind if you haven't like weaved all the ends in, or if it's slightly lopsided or whatever. You're selling to real people that are paying to get something. If they're paying £80 for a product, they're expecting a product worthy of £80. They're not expecting something that is worthy of £15, because it's like £80 is a lot of money, and if you're willing to spend that much on a crochet piece for somebody, you kind of expect it to be good. You don't want it to be, you know, lopsided or not stitched properly, or it's, you know, unraveling and stuff. So make sure you perfect your skills and you perfect your craft, and you make sure you're good at what you do, you're good at what you make before you want to sell it. Because if you get a bad review, it's not going to look good on your store, it's not going to look good on your brand, it's not going to look good, period. So just make sure you practice, make sure it's perfect or close to perfect or really good before you think about selling. That is all the unpopular opinions that I have time for in the comments. If you guys have any more unpopular opinions for crocheting, make sure you leave them in the comment section below, and I might make a part 3. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to give it a like, comment, and of course subscribe, because we're almost at 1k. And what are you doing if you're not subscribed to Crochet Kasuya Game? Like, what are you actually doing? Make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit that post notification bell so you never ever miss a video from me. And yeah, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.